In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create these images here. And if I refresh, you can see it will nicely move along, but also make sure that the width of this or the height of it will be dynamic, so that if the chart changes in size, you can see the image will nicely adjust itself as well. So let's start to look how to do this. So let's start to look how to add the images with dynamic width to a bar chart in Chart.js. So the first thing what we need to do is we need to go to chartjs3.com, getting started, this specific link here, which you can find as well in the description box. Once you're on here, we're going to grab our boiler template here. So copy this chunk of code. If you want to understand this code, please watch this video. It explains it all. So we're going to paste that in there. We'll cut out the title in here and then put that in there, save, refresh. Let's maximize the size of the chart by saying our chart width will be 80%, so it's a nice dynamic width, but also a large width. Next, what I want to do is, because it was specifically for a horizontal bar chart, that was the request, so I'm going to convert this into a horizontal bar chart. We're going to go down, and then we're going to say here, index axis, and we're going to say here, the Y scale, because then we're going to swap the X axis with the Y axis, or the X scale with the Y scale. Now we have this, but if I'm going to put an image, for example, here, or even on this one here, it will be somewhere here outside of the chart area. So I don't want that. So I want to create what we call a grace area. So it's well additional space between the very end of the bar and the end of the scale. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, this one here can be converted into X, Y, because this is begin at 0, which is now related to X chart for X scale and not on the Y scale. So we're going to convert this into X, and then what we want to do as well is the grace area should be also on the X scale. So I'm going to say a comma, grace, and then I'm going to say here 1, which will give us a 1 additional point, but in this case it will also calculate the segment, so it will be just 1 additional segment that looks just a bit more neat. So now we have all of this, and what I want to do is I want to make sure I put an image here, and I have an image ready. So the image I already prepared in advance, that is a simple PNG, but this one is 500 pixels by 500 pixels, so it's a big image. I do this on purpose, so later on we can just shrink it into the preferred size. And you can see here it's a transparent design here and has a background that is slightly transparent. You can see that here. If I move that, you see it. Anyway, nothing fancy. So what we're going to do now is basically what we want is that icon or image to be here but matching with the bar height. So how do we do this? Well, what we have to do is we're going to say comma here. We're going to create a custom plugin. So say plugins, brackets, and then we can say here add image. Let's copy this, and then we're going to create a plugin. So we're going to say here a add image plugin block. I'll just give this a proper comment, and then we're going to say a constant. This equals ID of that, which is identical. And then what we're going to do is when would you like to draw the image? Well, we're going to say this after data sets draw. So once the data set has been drawn, afterwards of that we draw the image. So what we want to do here is 3 specific arguments: it's the chart, args, and plugin options, although we won't use the last 2, so don't worry about those. So what we need to do next is what we call object destructuring. If you don't know object destructuring, check out in the description box Understanding Chart.js Object Destructuring. So what I'm going to do here is the object destructuring command, and what I want to do here is I need to have the CTX and the data. So we don't need much, we only need these 2. And then next what I realized is I forgot that I want to put in here a specific value or name, object name. We can call this, for example, maybe a box. I'm not sure if that will be the right term, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's say here, and we're going to use the index, so say index number 3, or let's say index number 2 and number 4 that we want to pinpoint. So this here would indicate which bar we're going to draw the item, and in this case number 2 would be bar Wednesday. So this is 0, 1, 2, etc., etc., because this is an array which has zero-based calculation. So we're going to focus on Wednesday and Friday, which is number 4. So now what we can do here is first of all ctx.save to save all variables above, and then we can start to work on creating the image. And basically there's two things. We can put it here or put it up. And I'm going to show it here, but later on I'm going to show you where I'm going to move it to and the reason why. So what I'm going to do here is constant, and this constant will be our image object. So we're going to give an image, it can be anything. And what was the image here is the box PNG. You can give it anything you want here, it doesn't matter. But here we're going to say here, this is a new image, meaning we want to tell in JavaScript, we're going to create now an image object. This image object will have the image source, which will be equal to, well, basically wherever the image is located. In my case, I'm just going to grab this here. It's just on my documents folder, so that's fine. Make sure that this is a string value or any reference if ever. So I'm going to just put that in there, very straightforward. So now it will know what the image is and that it needs to load. Then what I want to do is I want to draw the image, and we want to put that image somewhere here. So let's start to work on, or even before we even go ahead of that, what I want to do is, because the image, look at the size of the image, is 500 by 500 pixels, which is too large for our canvas. So I want to force the height eventually, where I want to adjust that. But how do we get the height? Well, remember, I want to get the bar height here, or specifically the height from this point to here. Because we are on a horizontal bar chart, the vertical level, which is basically top to bottom, is this part here, is the height. So if you're on a vertical bar chart, or sorry, I guess a vertical bar chart, standard bar chart basically, the width will be important. So now we're doing, of course, a different way, because we want to have this point to here, but if there will be different bar and different story. Anyway, that's alright. If you don't understand what I'm saying here, you can comment below, but basically if you change it, then it will be the horizontal level that becomes important. But that doesn't matter for now. So what we're going to do here is we want to grab that specific point from here to there. So how do we do this? Well, Chart.js has a built-in functionality, and I'm going to show you this. So I'm going to say a chart dot, and this is a built-in function. So we're going to say chart.get data set meta, and because it's a function, we're going to put in parentheses, and then we say here the index number and not a bracket. And then we say a dot, and then we're going to say, here the data, because I want to grab the data, and then we can select any bar that we want. So which index? In this case I can say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, doesn't matter. Why? Sorry, this is 6 of course. Why? Because every bar has the identical height, which is this point to that point, so it doesn't matter. If there would be a difference, of course other items would apply, but of course it's not the case here. So if I do this, if I just save this and refresh, open up developer tab, you will see here this gives us access to the item. Let me refresh this one more time so we get all of this. Alright, you can see there's an animation, that's why it moves here. But then if I click on this, what will happen is we will get the value that we need. And in this case you can see here the width, but the width is from this point to there, and I don't want it, I want to get the height. So what is the height here? 36 pixels, 0.37 plus, basically this amount. So what we can do is we can grab this height here, and we also grab here the x and y coordinates of the bar. So we get all the information that we need, and this is only from index, data set index 0, and then here data index 0 as well. So it's data set 0 and data point 0. So of course we can have this for multiples. So let's start to grab at least this and start to put at least on this item here on index 0, or on the red bar a square. So how do we do this? Well, we have here the dot height. That will give us already the height of the image. So this is already most important information. So now what I want to do is I want to say here ctx.drawImage to draw the image. Then what I want to do here is basically I need 5 parameters. Number one, I need the image name. In this case, the image name is just called image. So that's alright. So if it's called picture, put in here picture. The next one, what I need to know is basically our y coordinates, our starting y, our starting x coordinates, then our starting y coordinates. And then we have here the width and the height of our image. So we can control this. This is not necessary. If your image is already optimized, you can skip this basically. But if it's not optimized, because like ours, it's 500 by 500, it's too large. In that case, we can control this. So what I'm going to do now is just, we have the image here, that's alright. So then, what I want to do is, I want to get the data here. To get this data here is basically, we have all of this here. And all we have to say is here, .x. And then we get the coordinates of bar number 0. Basically, 0.0. That's the one we need. And then here we have the height. So let's copy all of this. And all I'm going to do here is that .x. Next for the height, I'm going to paste this again in .y. And what I want to do is just put an enter, just to clean up it and make it easy to read, because we have a lot of items in here. And then we have here the width. So how do we get the width here? Well, the width, because we're going to create a square, or sorry, yeah, I guess a square, that's the right term, the square image. So the width and height will be equal. So let's put those here twice in there, because no problem. So now, if I save this, what will happen, and refresh, we have our image. But, as you can see here, I don't like this, because look at this, what happened here. Our image is slightly lower than the bar, or specifically at the center. The reason why this is, because the coordinates here of the y coordinate of the bar is basically based on the center. So what I need to do here basically is know how big is the height. That's what we already know. And then we just have to deduct the 50% of that height. So it will push up. Next, what I want to do, I want to give it some space here, because that space here, look at this, we're just attached to the bar. That's not a lot. So let's first push this up. How do we do that? Well, we have here this height, and let's make it more easier. I'm going to say here, constant bar height, that could be bar width as well, because they're identical. And in this case, bar width and bar height can be changed here. So we have some cleaning up or refactoring here. But then here, what I want to do is I want to push this up 50% of the bar height. So I'm going to say here minus, because up here is 0, down here would be whatever the height would be. So that's the maximum height. If I want to go up, I need to go in the negatives. So I'm going to say here minus. And then what I'm going to do is bar height divided by 2. If I save this, refresh, there we are. Now we're nicely matched to it and exactly the same height. Next, what I want to do is I want to push it away here, push it more to the right, so we have some space or padding between the bar and the image. So I'm going to say here plus 10 pixels. Save, refresh, and there we are. Alright, so now we've done this, but we're not done yet, because look at this. We want to make sure that it is dependent on index number 2 and index number 4 of the bars. So how do we do this? Basically, what we can do here is to create a for each on this array. And this is the reason why we have an array, because if you remove the array, it will be harder to put it on multiples. So make sure you have an array. So to get to this point, we have this data of the data destructuring. So what we can do is, this data is basically reference to this. From data to data sets, we have only one data set, so index 0, and then we go to the box. So let's get this. So what I'm going to do here, I will say here, data sets index 0 dot box, and this box here, we say dot, and I say for each. And this for each, what I want to do here, we have a shorthand for this, so I'm going to say here maybe the data point, that's fine. And then what we can do here is, let's put in here double parentheses just in case, function arrow expression, curly braces, and then I'm just going to cut out this, put it in there, proper indentation, and just do some proper semicolons. Alright, So now, if I do this, I save this, refresh, nothing truly happens. Although you might notice that this color has become slightly darker because they are overlapping each other. But of course, what I want to do is I want to make sure that this is based on the index here. So this data point has the index here on the data. So we can just put that in there, put it in there, save, refresh. So now we have the lighter yellow color. So it means that it's only once. And you can see they're spread over. So alright, so the last thing what I want to do is I want to move this. And the reason why I want to move this is, let me show you. Console log, and then just show you here the image. If I save this, refresh, open up developer tab, you can see we get this image loaded many times due to the animation. I don't want this because this will overload eventually your chart. So we want to keep the chart light. So how can we do this then? Let's remove this here. And basically we say, we don't need to load the image in the plugin. No, we want to load this even before it touches the plugin. So we're going to move that all the way up here. And then from here, it will just understand that this code is a reference on here as well. So if I scroll down, you will see it's not visible here anymore. But we can still assign the proper height, width, and the position of that image. So that's no problem at all. So next one, maybe if you want to change the image here, we could change this with an array. You could play around with an array, then all you have to do is like this. Oh sorry, you have to do that multiple images. You have to create new image objects. This is very important. But that's maybe another video. So that's basically how we can control these images. And if I now change the size of it, look at it, the image changes accordingly. And that's basically it. So if you enjoyed this video and maybe you want to do maybe on a line chart, in that case, in the line chart, we can also play around with images where we can change these points and convert it into images, shapes, and other point styles, which is also quite interesting item because you can have them in different sizes as well.